Alright gang, this is a 2007 Kia Sportage LX. It's a 4-cylinder, automatic, normal little 2-wheel drive. And I picked this up earlier this year for my daughter to learn to drive in. And I knew it had some issues. I had to replace a wheel bearing on it, which I had done a video on. And the compressor for the air conditioning is making some weird noises. So rather than have it break down on her on the side of the road somewhere, I'm going to be proactive and replace the compressor. So I bought a kit, and this kit, I've got an AC compressor, I've got a receiver dryer, and an AC expansion, air conditioning expansion valve, and an O-ring kit. And I checked, and this one took PAG 46 oil, which I'm going to use to lubricate the O-rings. But what I did, because I don't have any equipment, I took it to a local shop. In fact, it was Merlin Muffler Shop, and they vacuumed it down for me this morning, and they recorded the ounces. I think it was 7.2 ounces of R134. But that being said, I'm going to swap these parts out and go get it recharged. So that's today's project. In this case, I've got it up on some ramps, and I already know that the compressor is on the aft or rear side of the engine, so I'm going to start working there and just go through these parts and get them swapped out and try to get this thing taken care of. So to make some progress, I took off the little cover panel that was up here on top of the bumper cover, and a little filler between that and the core support. And that's it right there. I also removed that filler panel, which goes from the bumper to the cradle, and that just fills in this gap and trims it out nice. Now that had 12mm headed bolts, which are sitting right there, and the rest of this stuff, and I'll just try to show you, has these little plastic clips. There's one. Sorry. And they look like a screw, but they're really not. It's just a plastic push pin with a screw head, and it will turn, but it is a little tricky to get to. If you take like a drill or with a tip on it, basically drill driver or screwdriver, and turn it counterclockwise, it'll probably spin, but it may not come out. So sometimes you got to hook a little screwdriver behind the edge there while it's turning, or wedge a screwdriver in behind it and push that out. And once that comes out, you can see all it does is spread that end when it locks it in. So I'm going to remove those, and then that'll free up the bumper cover, and I'll get it out of the way because I have to replace that, the receiver dryer. And to show you that, it's down there, basically. Kind of hard to see, but when I pull the cover off, I'll show you where it's at. So that's why I'm pulling all this apart. Okay, now that the bumper cover's off, I can show you where the receiver dryer is, and that's it right there. It's behind this plastic piece, which I'll have to remove that, and then of course disconnect the lines, replace the O-rings, and put it back together. And what I'm going to do is leave this apart when I take it back to get it recharged, because if there's a leak, we need to fix it while it's open instead of taking everything back apart to try to get to it. Thought I'd show you this. There's two bolts that hold this together. On this side, you can see right here, that appears to be an 8mm Allen wrench, and then on the other side it appears to be, and it is, a 10mm bolt. So we'll just take those loose and get this out of the way, put on the new O-rings on the other one, and put it back in. So I removed the part. There was two little O-rings right here, and that's these right here. And I just hooked the screwdriver behind them and pulled them up and out. And in this kit, as you can see, I can set this right on top. There's the replacement. There's 2 of those in there. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the PEG 46 oil, because that's what it calls for. I checked at the parts store. Put a little bit of that on the O-rings, slip them back over, maybe add a little bit more oil, and then I'll slip the new part on. And I will say the part is self-aligning for the most part. It's got this little hook on it, which goes right there. So, slips over, lines up. Simple enough. And that takes care of the receiver dryer. The next step I'm going to do is replace the expansion valve. And the whole reason I'm replacing all these parts at the same time, it's not necessary, but they will not honor the warranty unless you replace all these pieces. So let me get in position. I'll show you where that part is located. Okay, the expansion valve is in place. Everything's oiled and tightened up. So the next step is to change the compressor. And the compressor is right there. So the first step I'm going to do is loosen up. There's a belt tensioner. You can see it right, just barely see it right there. Maybe that'll help. Yeah, that right there. And to loosen the tension, you turn it counterclockwise. It would seem like you'd want to go the other way, but counterclockwise. And so I'll take the belt off, and then I'll loosen up the lines up there. I hope you can see that okay. And then obviously there's a couple bolts you can see for the compressor. I'll remove those and get it out of the way. To make it a little easier, I took the top cover off the engine. Only had 4 bolts, 10mm, and that gave me a lot more room up top. And where the light is shining, that's the 2 bolts that I'm going to remove the lines off the AC compressor. What I'm going to do before I do that is clean those up a little bit. I don't want any debris getting caught up in it, so I'll clean those up. I believe those are a 12mm, and once I do that, I'll get those off, and then I'll go back underneath, pull out the 4 main bolts that hold the compressor, and get it out of the way. One thing I wanted to point out, now that I've got the compressor off, I should mention earlier that this little pigtail, disconnect that. I didn't have any trouble with it. I did disconnect it before I pulled the compressor off, but you need to disconnect that before you pull the bolts out. That being said, I thought this would just come out of the box and go straight in, but apparently not. It's got this little plate on here, and it looks like I need to take the plate off of this one to put on this one. No big deal, just another step in the process. See if I can show you something here. Hear that? Yeah, that's not good. Should have been nice and smooth and not had any issues. But so when we turn the air conditioning on or the defrost, this thing was rattling and rumbling, so it had to be changed. Just one more shot before I start taking that apart. I cleaned that up with some in this case brake parts cleaner, just to get the oil and grease off of it. I'm not worried about the condition of the compressor anymore since it's no good, but I'll also clean up any residue on the inside before I put it back on the new one. And just to show you, there's the inside of the new one. That's the plate from the old one, and we'll just set it on top of that, get some bolts in it, tighten it back up. Shouldn't be a big deal. Well, there it is. Compressor's back in place. All the lines are hooked up. Everything bolted right back where it should be. Make a note when you pull the bolts out of the compressor. I always lay them a certain way so that I know where they came from, and they are different lengths, so that's kind of important. But next step is I'm going to put the new serpentine belt on, tighten it up, and get it back over to Merlin's. The only other thing I'm not going to do at this point is put the bumper cover on or the engine cover. I'm going to leave all that stuff out of the way because if I do have a leak, I want to be able to get to it and take care of it.